Welcome back to another episode of RNT Fitness Radio, and today I'm joined by fellow coach and new dad, big man Ben Mulla, where we talk all about his dad bod elimination strategies and then all about the ins and outs of a productive investment phase. At the start of the investment phase, you have two choices that fall along a continuum of muscle building and lifestyle solutions. For most of you, you'll fall somewhere in the middle as you want to learn how to be in great shape year-round while also building some muscle. Today's episode is all about those of you who want to use the investment phase to build as much muscle as possible. This phase is all about creating your ideal physique and version 2.0. So if you've got plans for an upgrade in 2020, you won't want to miss this episode. Let's just we'll dive straight in. But what I want to do to begin with is, you gave a little Facebook post in the group about your strategy for training and nutrition.
Yes.
So I thought we'd just give you some time here to expand on it a bit more. And I think it might be interesting for parents and also just anyone really looking to see how you've transitioned from before to after being a dad.
Yeah. Biggest thing is obviously making good use of your time. So trying to get in the gym 4 or 5 times a week is a little bit unrealistic in the initial start, because I'm there constantly trying to help out in the house. So rather than getting upset about not making it to the gym 4 times a week and spreading training volume and whatever else, I was like, what's the least I can do to just at least hold on to what I've gained over so many years of training?
Yeah.
I was like, I'll go down to 3 full body sessions a week. And initially I was genuinely wasn't really looking forward to the way I was going to train, because it just takes so long to get to a working set on anything. So you do 1 or 2 sets of hack squat, it takes you 15 minutes to get to the weight that you want, and you get off it, and you got to do this other exercise. So I thought that was going to be really challenging, but actually it's really rewarding getting the whole thing done in an hour and managing my time and knowing that I can always hit 3 sessions with no excuses.
Are you setting up the actual session itself? Are you pairing
the
it?
actual session? Yeah, it's the first workout is more legs and upper back dominant. So all the workouts are about 8 exercises. There's about 2 sets for pretty much everything. It's balls to the wall intensity. There's not a lot of training volume. And then the second workout is more chest and shoulders with a little bit of light pump work for hamstrings and quads. And then the third workout is a traditional full body split, a fair spread on every single body part. And that's me done for the whole week.
So you go heavy, and then medium.
Yeah, so it's not heavy, medium, or light. It's just moving that around to different body parts. So I'll do a heavy hack squat on Monday. I'll do just leg extensions on Wednesday, and then do leg press for higher reps on the third workout.
Yeah,
so I'm just managing it that way.
The hard bit is always when you're fairly strong and you do full body workouts, is exactly what you said, in that you take 20 minutes to warm up to your main set.
Yeah.
It just drags on for ages.
Yeah.
I've got to warm my chest up now, and I've got to warm my back up. And when you're strong, it's difficult. So you probably have to vary the intensities across the week.
Yeah. So that's why I did it that way. It's basically about 2 or 3 of my first exercises are really hard, and it'll take me the majority of the workout just to get to the right weight. And then the last half of the workout is really just light, pumpy stuff, just kind of moving. So you can spread it because you're doing about 2 or 3 hard exercises over 3 days. So 2 or 3 on Monday, 2 or 3 on Wednesday, 2 or 3 on Friday. And then the rest is just higher rep work. So you don't need as long to warm up. You can get straight into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what about nutrition?
Nutrition is just pretty much kind of eyeballing at this stage. It's 40 to 60 grams of protein per meal, 4 times a day. Generally very easy for me to hit, 3 solid meals, protein shake. So I'm just maintaining body weight at around 87 to 88.5 kilos for the since the 5th of November.
Okay.
Since Romilly was born.
Before that, what was it, going up or down or steady?
Before that, I was dieting a little bit over the summer. So I got nice and thick last winter. Got my winter coat on, went up to 94 kilos because I was pushing the muscle gain. And then over the summer, I kind of cut a little bit, came down to about 84.5 at my lightest. And then since then, just slowly been coming back up. But now that training volume isn't super high, I don't really want to push nutrition back up too high because like it doesn't warrant what I'm doing. So it's kind of maintenance.
What about your general activity and cardio?
No cardio. No cardio at all. There's one thing I actually need to bring up a little bit, because just being, first of all, working from home because you're an online trainer, and second, wanting to be there to see the little one makes it tricky. So when I'm out, I try and crush the step count, but generally I max out at about 5k steps at the moment.
Crushing the step count, yeah?
That's crushing it, yeah. That's actually crushing it. But most of that's in the house as well.
And what is the plan for, say, the next 3 to 4 months with your training? Is it just like sort of keep it here and maintain it?
Nah, the plan for now is just to keep the strength there. I've got a new hack squat machine in the gym, which I haven't had for a couple of years. I was telling the guys, like, I literally go on there, I do 2 or 3 sets per week, and my quads are ruined for the whole week. So that's been awesome. But generally, yeah, the plan is just maintain strength at the very least. But actually, if I can get stronger, I will. And I have been for the past few weeks, even with like disturbed sleep and a completely different pattern. So I don't know, actually. I don't know where it's going to take me. I've never run a full body training program. But so far as like everything's going so far, it's good. Recovery's good. Getting stronger. So maybe could be putting on some muscle. I don't know.
Yeah, this time last year I ran a full body for a bit. Remember, I was doing 3 days a week.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I was just like, you know what, I'm sick of the warm-up sets and prefer like splitting it up a bit. So I'm sure I know you're a big fan of the upper lower.
I love it. Yeah, I like coming out there going, yeah, I just destroyed my quads or my legs, or I can't move my chest, my back is completely broken. Whereas when you do full body, you just kind of go in there, okay, but 2 or 3 sets, and I've got to give this everything. Otherwise, I'm just losing out here. It's a different mindset.
Yeah, it's just that momentum doesn't get built, I find, within the session. Once you get to that level of strength, I think for beginners it's a different story, but once you're like late intermediate.
Yeah. I think for beginners it's a great way to train because you need more exposure to lifts. You need to lift. You can get away with doing a lot more heavy lifts because, you know, it doesn't take you long to warm up. So you could, for example, you wouldn't need to do a light and middle session. You could do all 3 heavy, push yourself as hard as you can, beat yourself into the ground, eat well, and you'd keep growing for at least the first year of training.
Yeah. What about for females? Do you think there's more value for full body?
I'd say even then it depends on how advanced the female is. Like, you're going to get to a point where your training demands and how strong you are going to beat you up regardless of gender. So do I think females could benefit from a bit more frequency? Yeah. But when you're talking about girls who are doing like over 100 kg deadlifts at 50 kg body weight, that's still going to take a few days to recover. So I can't see how you'd get too many hinge movements in. So you might do it twice a week rather than 3. It's kind of like how I've just split it up with my own training. You'd have to be a bit more mindful of your recovery.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it all depends on your strength level, your experience, and your background, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, like you see some of the top powerlifters in the world, they bench press like, you know, some of them are bench pressing like every 10 days because the damage that they do from one session is just so much. But then you're talking about like the creme de la creme of lifters.
Yeah.
And there's Mulamehic. I don't know how many of our listeners are going to know about him, but anyway, this guy benches like over 300 kilos. So you can imagine what your pecs are doing after that.
They're not ready for in 40 hours time, are they?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, we're talking about strength and muscle gain here in general, which segues nicely into the main part of this podcast. You know, I brought Ben on today to talk all about investment phases. An investment phase, you have, you know, once you've got into the shape of your life, you've consolidated, there's like, you enter the investment phase with 2 choices. You can either learn how to essentially have your cake and eat it and just focus on lifestyle, focus on being able to navigate around life while staying into great shape. Or you can take the more interesting approach, we call it the more interesting approach, and really go heavy into muscle building and making massive improvements to your physique so that the next time you diet down, you have a much bigger engine, you have a better physique overall, and you look better for it, you're stronger. How do you make that decision at that checkpoint? Once you've got into the shape of your life, how do you make the decision which way you're going to go?
So individual, isn't it? I mean, you've got the typical guy who's, you know, typical guy, 70 kilos, started at over 20% body fat, got lean for the first time, photo shoot ready, and the first thing he says is, I just want to be a bit bigger. I want to put on a bit more muscle. And you're like, I know I've got the solution for you. And that's going to be a nice, long muscle building phase. So for that guy, it's clear right from the day he's done the shoot. He's happy with the level of conditioning. And there's just a switch that goes, and you're like, yeah, I need to do this, but I need your guidance because I've never done this properly and I don't want to put on too much body fat. Fine. Then you've got the other person, perhaps a bit heavier. They've never been lean in their whole life. And they've reached the pinnacle of their journey or the checkpoint. They're as lean as they've ever been. And they're like, ooh, now I'm not too sure about all this extra food because, it's taken me X number of weeks to get this lean. Can we just give me a solution where I can have a bit more food, enjoy it, include some of these things, but not put weight on too fast? So how you come to that point depends on who you are and kind of like what you want from it. But what I will say is, if you have only dieted once, you'll probably need to do at least 2 investment phases to get yourself kind of primed with new tissue to do another shoot. So even if you think, I want to pack on a lot of muscle or I want to pack on a little bit of muscle, you're always going to benefit from doing that in terms of what you will do in future diets by bringing your food up and also just presenting a better physique and having more energy.
Yeah. And why is building muscle important then?
Well, it depends on what angle you want to go. I mean, if you're talking about the guy who's in the photo shoot, he's like, because I want to be jacked, man. I want to be bigger than I was this time. But then, the actual, I suppose, the health benefits will remain the same, whether you're in a dieting phase or in a muscle building phase. Obviously, you're reversing the aging process to some extent. You're fighting off muscle loss. Your energy's higher. You can get about your day more. People ask you to grab stuff off the shelf or how to open a jar of something. The benefits are many, but I think for the most part, people just want to improve on what they look like because they've taken it to a level where they're super lean, they're very conditioned, they look good, but they want to know how much further they can go. Nobody does one diet and says, I'm done, that's it. I never want to do it again. They're just like, can I do better than that? That's the normal human reaction.
Yeah, and the only way you can do better is actually going through a lengthy muscle building phase.
Yeah, and by lengthy, we mean more than 6 months.
Okay, so let's go into that then. Let's talk about the timeframes of investment phases. And for the purpose of this podcast, we're going to take the individual who's really looking to make improvements to their physique, which I think, like you said, if you've only dieted once, you should go through a proper long investment phase at least twice. No matter what journey you're at, it's just how much potential fluff you put on will be dependent on your background and psychology. So let's go with timeframes to begin with and discuss different timeframes for a productive investment phase.
Yeah, I think we've kind of bounced this timeframe around on the podcast before. And I know even with Kevin's one, he'd mentioned like at least a year and a half, 2 years. And I think when people hear that, they think, oh, do you mean I'm going to be in a surplus for 2 years and just having to like overfeed myself? In a way, yes, but not to the extent that you think you're going to be, eating calories left, right, and center. It's really methodical. Your year might look like 8 or 9 months of being in a surplus. It's going to include some dieting to keep body composition in check, and the rate of which you're actually going to put muscle on. And the reason why it's going to be a year and a half to 2 years is because it does take time. So the way I'd see it, I think I've mapped it out for quite a few of my clients recently. They're saying, okay, so I've done the consolidation. What do we do now? I'm like, okay, this is you. So, January, February, March, April, growing, 1 month, dieting, reverse that again, go again, another 2-3 months of growing, then another short consolidation, and then again. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. And everybody just thought they were just going to be in a surplus for, 2 years, which you could do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as you said just now, how fluffy do you want to be? If you're the kind of person who can walk around with a higher level of body fat comfortably, then go for it. But at some point, it will give diminishing returns.
Do you think there's something to be said for everyone going through that one phase in their life where they do being a bit, fluffier? Because I think a lot of my muscles come from that.
Yeah, I think we both had a similar journey on that.
Weight moves weight, right? If you've got more body fat or if you've got more body weight, even if it's a bit more body fat than you probably should have, if you have that period of like 12 to 18 months where you're okay with being a bit fluffy, but you're moving some serious poundages, I think it really pays off in the long run.
Yeah, part of it you got to remember is when you increase a kilo of weight, some of it's going to be water, some of it's going to be fat, some of it's going to be muscle mass, even just by, you just increasing the overall weight of your body, you've got more gravity pulling down on it. So it's not a bad thing. I know you did a mega perma bulk, and I did similar. I was 63 kilos.
Yeah.
And I perma bulked up to 90 kilos. So I'm not going to say it doesn't work, but the issue is your digestion is going to be pretty poor, especially if you're using food that shouldn't be used regularly. If you're eating sugars and smashing trans fats and all kinds of stuff like I was. Skin's not going to be good, inflammation is going to be higher, recovery is not going to be great. So whilst the dreamer's bulk is amazing, you have to understand that there is much more intelligent ways of doing it. And I think, if we had a coach at the time that we were doing the dreamer's bulk, we could have made an equal amount of progress with less work for the body fat side.
I know you've done your dreamer bulk where you're doing some, like, you're just eating crap foods all the time.
I was necking the worst diet you've ever seen. I had the Sunpat peanut butter with 125 grams of oats and protein shakes. That was just 2 meals. So that meal alone was about 800 calories twice a day on top of like 4 actual solid meals.
Yeah,
I was going ham.
I think it's still a big part of your foundation though, because like I've been 90 kilos twice in my life and I held it there for a while. And both times, like I don't look back and I didn't look pretty. But like, sometimes people even say to me, "Oh, were you training in that before picture?" I'm like, I was training like that. Like, this is like me. Like, I was measuring the carbs. I was strategically putting it all in, but I was the strongest I've ever been. And then there was a point of diminishing returns. Like I found, like after I got past 87, 88 kilos, I didn't really get any much stronger. And I found like across the spectrum of being like 71 kilos shredded all the way up to 90 kilos, there's like different bands you have of where strength gain lies. And I found after about 87, 88, there was no real benefit to putting on an extra 3-4 kilos for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like what you're saying there is because of your training age, getting much past 90 kilos isn't really doing much in terms of muscle growth because first of all, it takes so long at your level. And then after that, you're just like fighting off digestive issues. You feel like shit. Your blood pressure's high. You can't tie your shoelaces. People think you don't train. So you're like, well, what's the point of this? So that's where, when I was saying about the journey mapping and how we do an actual investment phase, you grow, and then you do a mini diet, you clean it up so that when you're actually building, it's being more productive and you've got less of those symptoms that you get with muscle building.
So if we take a 12-month cycle, is it, say, 3 to 4 months in a surplus, 1 month potential deficit, 1 month maintenance? Yeah, that's how I would do it. And the thing is, when we say that 1 month deficit, everyone's going to freak out. Like, oh, I'm going to lose all my muscle in that month. It's like that. It's 1 month. You've been hypercaloric for ages. 1 month and a higher body fat with all that muscle mass. It's just going to be like a really, really quick in and out diet. You're going to retain all your muscle tissue and then you're ready to go again for the next round of building. And what sort of gaining are you talking about in those 4 months? And what's you in?
Well,
what's a good rate to be gaining at?
It depends on how lean you are. So the leaner you are, the more scope you have to grow. I would say like when you finish the consolidation, you can go at 1 or 2% body weight gain per month. As you start to climb up in weight and you get more and more body fat, then you've got to slow that down. So around 1% or even 0.5% a month, which you can barely notice on a scale. So, when you're doing your weekly check-ins, don't expect to go, I just gained like so much muscle. It's not going to happen like that. Take it easy. It's about 1% a month. So if you take those 4 months, if you gain 4% for a 50 kilo guy, you're looking at 2 kilos. So really not a lot. And food wise, that varies so much for every single guy or girl training because it depends on what's going on with the activity, what goes on with how hard you train, your recovery, all these different variables.
Okay, so we've got 1 to 2% a month if you're very lean. And then as you're starting to get higher up on the threshold, 1%, and then you dial back a bit and you repeat that process over a 12, 18, 24-month period.
Yeah, because when you dial that back, like you might have that 1 month, you can lose 1% a week easily. So you pull off, whatever you put on in terms of body fat, but you retain all the muscle tissue, and then you've got like a new base to work from. Obviously, it's not your photo shoot super lean condition, but it's much leaner than where you were at. And then you do that properly, you go straight back into growing. You've given yourself more time.
Is that 3-4 month rule hard and fast, or can some people stay in a surplus for like 6 to 12 months and be fine?
Super generic. I mean, you're going to get the anomalies. You're going to get the freaks who you can just keep feeding for like 8 months and they have abs and they look great. So then it's a question of comfort. Like how much do you comfortably feel that you can gain until you're like where you are when you got to 90 kilo and you're thinking, oh, I need a diet now. I'm too big. Yeah, it depends. Completely depends. And another thing with that is genetics plays a massive part in that weight gain. So you gain 1 kilo of weight, let's say a month. For most people, that 1 kilo, maybe like 1/5 to 1/3 is going to be muscle. If you're the outlier and you half of it's muscle for you, your 1 month of training looks super productive. Like you got big. Whereas the person who's not as good at putting muscle on might need 5 months to do what you did in a month.
Okay, so these numbers you're throwing out, they're quite demoralizing for the most part. For most people. What kind of mindset do people need to have going into this sort of investment phase? Because like you said, you're not going to be checking in every week saying, oh my God, I've put on all this muscle. It's very much to be like, okay, things are ticking on nicely. What do I do next? Like, how do you approach this mentally to stay motivated in the long run? Yeah,
well, actually, what I'd say, that beginning bit where you said, oh, you don't put on much muscle, I'd actually say that first bit where you finish the diet, when you're proper photo shoot condition, you do, because you reclaim any lost tissue from the diet. So, like when you've seen people reverse out of it with good consolidation, that first 4 weeks, I feel great, my energy's good, I look pumped, I love training again. That comes back. So that fills up really quickly, but it's usually from the 2 month mark onwards where everyone's like, oh, okay, I'm not really seeing my pictures changing that often. It's not like fat loss where every week I look leaner. I added a rep here, I added weight here. And that's where you put the focus into. You pick your key lifts, like what we tell everyone, 5 of the lifts that you want to improve on. Those lifts should be linked to the body part or the thing you're trying to improve. So if you want to get a massive chest, if you need that square chest solution, you might be doing a floor press, and that might be your indicator for the next 8 months. So if you're floor pressing, 40 kilo dumbbells, expect to be lifting 50, 55 kilo dumbbells in the next year if you want to have a massive chest, right? If that doesn't go up and it's a year's past and you've dieted and you look at your chest again, you're like, it's still small. You know what you went wrong. So that's where I would put my attention to. Pick the 5 key lifts on the things that you want to improve and make sure that you've added at least 20 kilo to the bar for those lifts.
So for anyone who's entering an investment phase, this is when you have to really value training. Training up till now could have just been something you needed to tick the box off every day, because yes, it helps when you're dieting, but for the most part, you can just kind of turn up in the gym and maintain your muscle and look fine on at the end of it. But if you want to improve, you have to value training. And I think this is where you go wrong.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you want to improve, it's like there's no getting away from it. If it's been a year and you've looked at yourself and you've looked at your transformation pictures and you haven't changed, that's literally, there's no escape. That's your training log looking at you going, fuck you, you didn't work hard enough in the gym. Like you didn't put it in. You can hide away when you're dieting, because whatever's there is going to show up. You get lean, condition will be great. But in a muscle building phase, you have to go to war in the gym. You have to have made progress for anything to change. And a lot of people can't get their head around it.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. So for someone who's never really valued that war in the gym, make that shift in mindset, because I think this is the most critical to have a productive investment phase. Is you have to be at war in the gym, and you have to be looking for that rep here, rep there, and look back in 6 months saying, I've actually added 6 reps to that now, which is a big progression. How do you make that change?
I think it's similar to, like at the very beginning of the whole process anyway. When you put in your application, you're like, I want to do this. My why is this, and you get to it. And the checkpoint is generally the photo shoot, the 6-pack abs, whatever. You basically need to recheck with yourself and say, what is my why now for wanting to get this strong? You know, I've got one of my clients who won't mind me saying, Jay Pancania, did his photo shoot, crushed it, looked amazing. And then he said, you know, I really want to pack on muscle on my chest, arms. I want to fill shirts out. I want to look good again. I was like, okay, so what are the things you're going to need to do that? When is our next shoot? What's our timeline? He's shooting next year. All this year, mostly, he's been a surplus. Every time he checks in with his training videos and he says, oh, I did this, but I missed the rep here, I missed the rep there. I'll remind him. I'll say, hey, buddy, remember you said when we're going to do the next photo shoot, you're going to have a massive chest, da-da-da-da. What's going on with this movement? You haven't progressed it this week. We'll come back the following week with a video saying, smashed it, man. I'm on it. This is how I'm progressing. So find what is driving you again to actually do these performance goals, and then you can easily progress.
Okay, let's talk about that, because you mentioned training videos, and that's a good way to sort of shift your emphasis in that check-in, or the way you monitor your progress. You're weighing yourself to now analyzing your technique and looking at your logbook.
Training video value, well, for us coaches, we're going to keep you safe in the gym because we don't want to see bad form. If that's not in place, you're going to get injured. Second to that, intensity. The rate of perceived exertion that most people have in terms of what they do in the gym is not that hard. And the thing is, when we're not there with you in person, we can't, make you go back in the hack squat and do another 10 reps. But we can tell you, all right, you look like you had more in there. So if the form is safe and you've sent a video, you're doing a hack squat and you've come off it and we've watched the whole thing through, we'll say, all right, well, the last 2 or 3 reps still look super easy. There was no slowing down. You had great control. Why did you stop? And then the person will check it themselves. They'll watch it. They'll see the feedback and go, you know what? Maybe there's something to this. The following check-in, you pick it up and they'll say, what do you think of this? And then you'll see more progression. You'll see more intensity in that set because they got called on it and because they had to change something. And then the third thing is just the form itself. It doesn't matter how advanced you get, whether you're, at whatever level, there's always going to be some critical piece that you can look at, refine, and make better when you're going from, say a new top weight or a back off set, or when you're changing machines or kit, whatever it is, there's always some way to make a small change to make that movement better.
So when you're approaching these PBs, you mentioned going to war at the gym. That's obviously a bit of a strong...
I know, it's a bit dramatic, sorry. I didn't want to be that guy, blood in the water, and it just came to mind. But the focus has to be there, the same way.
Yeah, it's intense focus.
Yeah.
Channeled focus. Talk about the mindset you go into to channel that intense focus, which ultimately leads to PBs, which then allows muscle to be accrued over time.
It's funny. I think it was Nathan that spoke about it a while ago, but actually I have a precursor to going to the gym, which is my pre-workout. And it's going to sound so like bodybuilder, but I literally, once I have my pre-workout, I have 30 minutes to get to the gym, because by then it will have kicked in big time. Music will go in, and that heightened state will just keep ramping up until I get to the gym. And then whilst I'm going there, I'm scrolling through my notes to see what my last lift was, how much I need to beat it by. And then when it's go time and I've done the warm-up sets, I'll say to myself, if you don't get one more rep here, you've made no progress today. Absolutely zero. And for me, that's enough of a switch to be like, right, we've got to nail this. We've got to get at least one more rep or a little bit more weight. So I don't know whether it's going to be anything groundbreaking, but I'm just looking at, if I don't improve on this, I'm going to look exactly the same next year. I've made no improvements. There's practically no reason for me to be in the gym today because I haven't progressed it. Now, there's going to be days where that doesn't go, but generally speaking, like 8 out of 10 times, it's a go. We get an extra rep or we get something.
I have a question about that. Is on a month-to-month, like over 3-month period, then definitely there should be some progression. But do you think, are you chasing it on a weekly basis as well? Is the intent
where I can. Because the thing is, like, at the beginning, we're talking about the 3-day split. I had to establish a whole new base for everything, because by the time I got to the third movement, it wasn't going to be what I would do fresh. So that would be my best PB within that training block. But session per session, like, it might be, 50 kg dumbbells, 6 reps 1 week. Next week, 7 reps. Third week, 8 reps. And then we get to the 4th week, I'm like, this is not going to go. I'm not feeling ultra strong. Like, as long as I can get in the session and at least match the reps, I'll be happy. But yeah, there will be times where it's gonna hold for a while.
Yeah, and in those times, is it a case of just milking that weight and waiting for your body to say yes, I'm ready, or is it panic mode? I've got to change everything. What happens?
Nah, that's usually just when my head rolls off and I want to leave the gym. But what I'll do is try and rationalize it. Just stay at that weight, as you said. Milk it for what it is, try and get the movement a little bit better. But then also look at other markers like recovery. Did I sleep well? Did I eat well beforehand? Was I hydrated? What other things could be a factor in there? It's not always just, you couldn't get it because you couldn't get it, or it was a mindset. Sometimes you just didn't prepare well enough. Say you were rushing to the gym, you didn't nail your water beforehand, you're a little bit dehydrated, or you're not in the right headspace or something. These are all factors. So it's not always just you couldn't lift it.
Water's a huge one. I had that on last Thursday, and I just don't think I drank enough water. And all throughout the session, I was wondering, why did I miss? How have I gone down in exercises in a row? When earlier this week, everything was perfect. And then, so I thought, let me just wait and see if tomorrow goes bad as well. If tomorrow goes bad, then I know it might be a systemic problem. But if it's just a solo session, it could just be the water thing. But the next day was great. And I was like, oh, wow, water actually made that much difference. Because towards the end of the session, the lifts started coming up, and I made a conscious effort at the start of the session to really push the water back.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting. And I think most people overlook how important and then the close the link is between hydration and strength.
And salt.
Yes.
And salt. I know you add in a half a teaspoon.
A third of a teaspoon per meal.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But I mean, that's another one. If you aren't properly hydrated, there's no chance of moving it. And it sounds like such a small thing, but that is the difference. Like, you go in the session and you've got this massive PB to hit, but you're not hydrated properly. You've basically, I don't know what percentage by, but you've reduced your chances of doing that well. So the same way you tick boxes in a fat loss phase, you have to do that with muscle building as well.
Yeah. When it comes to building muscle and training, are you more in the do a couple sets all out camp, or are you more of a fan of the longer pumping sessions where the volume is pretty high?
I love how you just talk that down. You're like, do you like to train the right way or the wrong way?
maybe talk about the benefits of training hard versus just training long.
Yeah. I mean, look, to be honest, you can do both. You can train with more intensity or you can train more volume. If you train at a high intensity, by default, you can't do as many sets because you're just more knackered by the end of it. If you want to train with more volume and do it properly, so you're not just in the gym for a long time, you basically choose to do an extra 1 or 2 sets on top of what you would normally do, where you do 2 sets. But the load that you would use would not be all out maximum, leaving you on the floor, can't do another set. So you're just sparing a few reps. I think it can be valuable. The only issue with it is I don't think most people train hard enough to get the most out of it anyway. So I'm more inclined to push people towards higher intensity training. So by that, I mean, if you've got 2 sets and your first one's 5 to 8 reps and your second set is 10 to 15, that's all out. That means that if I asked you to do another set with 100 kilos, there's no way you would manage to get into that rep bracket. And I think that's probably the right way for most people to go, provided they're using perfect form.
And can most people apply enough intensity to warrant that? Or do you think that
This
needs to be there just as an insurance policy?
this is where you've got to find like the individual and how they are, what their mindset is, what their level of skill is in the gym, and what they can do. So some people have got it. Some people can bring that intensity from day one, and some people need to do more volume just to kind of learn the movements, have the skill, and then get to that level of wanting to train that hard. So I think it's highly individual.
Yeah, I've always, for like, people who can, 2 sets is the way to go. But
Yeah.
if you know that their like, reps in reserve are like they're
0.
they think they've got like 0, but they really have got like 2, 3. Then using a 3rd set can just act like an insurance policy almost.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much research on this stuff now, like going closer to failure, reaching higher threshold motor units, potentially more muscle mass. And I think ultimately it just comes down to whether you choose to do a few more sets or just 2 really hard sets. They have to be hard. Like if you have 0 reps in reserve, fine, but make sure you nail them. And if you have 3 sets and you kept 1 or 2 in reserve, make sure that is 1 or 2 in reserve and not 4 or 5, whereby you're leaving gains on the table.
And whichever way you choose, ultimately it's about progressive overload.
Always, yeah.
You go the high volume, the low volume, it doesn't matter. If you're not increasing the weight on the bar or improving reps, then it doesn't matter.
And it's funny, we say low volume. I'd actually say it's pretty moderate volume.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the programming, it's about 8 to 12 sets per muscle group. So that's not particularly low. I would say, 6 or less in crazy high intensities would be like low. And then your stuff that's up to 20 sets would be high volume.
That per muscle group or per session?
Per muscle group, but there's just no way you could do high volume per muscle group. Like you couldn't do 20 sets of legs and then 20 sets of chest or whatever.
No.
Moderate volume, I think you could spread quite evenly across the week. Like you could do 10 sets for quads, 10 sets for hams. But I don't think you can do like ultra high intensity for everything.
Yeah, maybe that's where sometimes I run into recovery issues.
Yeah, but you know what though? I think even at that point with the recovery issues, it would be more a case of do you deload because you're actually strong and you'd weigh yourself down more? And what are the other stresses in your life that might be pulling back recovery capabilities?
Yeah, I mean, DC training, Nathan said to me the other day when we were talking about my own stress bucket, he goes to me, you pretty much work like you're doing DC training on high volume.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy there. I haven't thought about it like that.
No deloads.
Let's talk about deloads then. Like, are they when are they necessary? Because you always hear of people asking for deloads, like thinking, is it now time to deload? We've been doing this program for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Are they necessary, or should they just be played by ear? I
think the value of a deload is obviously that it's going to reduce overall fatigue. Psychologically, it's nice to have a little bit of a breather. The bad side of it, I don't think anyone can truly deload properly. Like, how many times have you smashed yourself to pieces for 10 to 12 weeks and then said, I'm going to take a deload week? And you go in the gym and it says, use 50% of the weight you were using. And you just think, I'm just going to take the week off and I'll come back to it next week and train properly. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people can train that hard to put themselves into that much of a recovery debt. And I think that for most people, holidays and events just come up anyway. So they serve as short or long deloads. So, Christmas might come up and you have 3 or 4 days off because you're doing something, you're traveling somewhere, you're on holiday, you're training lighter. They're what I'd call like natural deloads that just happen to you anyway. So rather than planning deloads in the year, just train as hard as you can. And when these events come up where you're away for a week and training in the sunshine and doing bodyweight push-ups and lunges, whatever, that's your deload. That's how I would approach it.
Yeah. I can never do the whole 50%, walk in the gym and do 50%. I think it's just, you're better off just not going in for me.
Yeah, I mean, they do say that if you do a proper deload, you keep the skill capacity and whatever else. But I've done it before. I've gone in and I'm doing 5 sets of something and I'm going out and you just feel like you just wasted an hour of your day. What was the point? I could have just stayed at home. So yeah, probably not the correct PC answer, but I'd say deloads for most people will just happen based on their recovery demands and how they're going. Like if you've got a nice holiday to Portugal, you're gonna have a breather.
Yeah.
You're not going to train very hard. You're going to enjoy some good food. You're going to walk around, and that'll be you recovered.
Yeah. So you mentioned stress being an important part of gaining strength, like being able to manage your stress levels and recovery capacities is a massive part of building muscle. It's not just about power shoveling the food and adding weight to the bar. In order to actually add weight to the bar and make progression, you've got to manage your lifestyle as well. So for production building phase to occur, what do we need to be considering here from a recovery capacity?
Well, where do we start? I mean, like, first one, sleep. Are you getting enough of it? Is it quality sleep? Anyone who's had a bad night's sleep and then gone to work the next day knows exactly what their cognition is like, how their energy is, how bad their cravings are. I know you had this week where you were saying you had some better sleep and your food intake was better by default. You weren't craving as much.
Yeah, I mean, my satiety is through the roof, and the biggest thing for me is the energy, like day-to-day energy. I don't think I realized I just started to realize a new norm. And then that norm was not low energy, but it was almost like I was running on adrenaline. And then as soon as I stopped running on the adrenaline, I'd crash. Whereas now I feel way more energetic. Besides yesterday, obviously after the Christmas party, but my energy level is much higher. And I don't know if it's due to sleep or if it's I don't know if it's probably a combination of the improved quality, quantity, and the reduced stresses. So, coming off caffeine.
And then, basically to continue that then, so stresses are simple things like caffeine and over-reliance on it, especially if off the back of a dieting phase, or even bigger things like family commitments, work commitments, how you're scheduling out your day, what your perceived level of stress is to the situations and how you manage it. For some people, they can look at our stresses and say, man, you've got no stresses in life. This is simple stuff. But that person developed a level of skill where they can manage that very easily. And they have actual, let's say bigger stresses, and they have the systems in place to manage them more effectively.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite stress reduction techniques?
Well, good sleep is a nice one when you can get it, but when you've got a newborn, that doesn't happen so often.
You haven't got a newborn. How are you optimizing sleep? Because we spoke about this last week. I'm reading that book, Why We Sleep, by Matthew Walker, and it's very interesting. Yeah. If you have the optimal situation, what would you do to prepare for good sleep throughout the day and in the evening? Yeah.
Throughout the day, you're already doing it. I would cut the caffeine at 2:00. I would try and keep it to a minimum. The sleep itself, get yourself a bit of a ritual going. So like a reverse engineering at night. Pick out when you're going to bed. Start to put all the dim lighting on. Use the goggles that you use. And what I mean is the blue light blockers that Akash likes to call goggles. And then just get yourself into bed. Well, get the room to a temperature where it's like 18 degrees, have a hot shower or hot bath, let your body wind down, do some light stretching. All these things could be implemented. Get away from your mobile phone, any lights, and blackout. So it's quite a few things. And I mean, just with all those things, you could have a full conversation with someone on how to improve their sleep. But like outside of that, you've got so many other things, like managing your day in terms of when you're coming off your laptop, especially for us guys, it's very easy to just stay online and be in front of the screen working to all hours. So even simple stuff like switching off from your actual work, so letting your brain wind down so you can just get yourself ready for bed.
Yes, that's a big one. The other one I've been playing around with, I kind of threw everything at once. So I don't know if I can help the most. But the other one I'm using is the light alarm clock.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think the biggest reason why it's helping is because as a result, I'm not using my phone as an alarm. And as a result, I'm not on my phone at bedtime.
Getting triggered. Getting triggered on Facebook.
Yeah, so I'm not that triggered by a conversation or something I see. There's just no possibility because I've made it a rule now. As soon as I go up the stairs, the phone is downstairs. Yeah. So I don't take it up. And then that also gives me that time away from electronics because I know I've got this light alarm clock. It could be any alarm clock, but it's also cool that it brings up the It brings up the light in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, you just addressed it. All these things I've said, people could use effectively and they all help. But generally speaking, you need 2 or 3 of them and you'll notice your sleep is better straight away. And if you nail that one variable, everything's easier to manage. Like, how do you feel after a great night's sleep? Doesn't matter how stressful your day is going to be, you can take it on. Whereas when you're deprived and you wake up, the list just looks like longer and longer.
If you had to look at like nutrition, training, and sleep, which one do you think has the biggest impact?
This is where, when people say to you, when you're cutting for a diet, how much percentage of it is nutrition and how much is diet? And you're like, it's all 100%. It's all 100%. You want to maximize all variables. So whether it's like nutrition, sleep, or your training, you want to get everything out of all of them. And then when you get them all together, they compound, they make something really cool.
And I guess they would be linked, right? If you train, you're probably going to get a better night's sleep. If you eat well, you get a better night's sleep. If you sleep well, you'll probably eat better.
Exactly.
Train. And if you eat well, you'll train better and sleep better. So it's...
Yeah, like you could be ticking 2 boxes. You could be nailing nutrition. You could be nailing your training. And then you sleep 4 hours a night.
Yeah.
And, you've been reading his book, Why We Sleep. The people who sleep less than, I think it was 6 hours a night, actually don't put on as much muscle, and they gain more body fat when they're dieting, or they hold more body fat when they're dieting. So something so simple could actually be affecting your progress. So why wouldn't you address it?
I think people forget about the sleep thing as well, because they think it's only nutrition and training.
Yeah.
It's not sleeping, it's making it much harder for the other 2 to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently we're the only creatures in the animal kingdom, as we are mammals, that deprive ourselves of sleep. All other animals put themselves to sleep and let the recovery process happen. But we end up being out until 1 or 4 a.m. at Christmas parties.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's if you have just shifting quickly to dieting here, if you had to choose between getting up early to do steps and cardio or sleeping an extra hour, what would you go for?
I don't want to make an excuse for anyone, because you're going to see people like, Ben said on the podcast I had to get an extra 2 hours of sleep, so I didn't get my steps this week. Yeah. But if you had to put a focus on one, the sleep, but then ensure that the steps and the diet are in check as well.
Okay, so you just adjust it later on.
You just adjust it. I mean, it depends on what time you're in bed. If you've got your 7 hours and you don't need to pump in any more at the end of the day, that's fine. But if you're going to be short on sleep, then I would say, stay in, sleep properly, and then catch up the steps later in the day.
Got it. And speaking of steps, let's go back into the investment phase. What sort of step targets are you guiding people on? Again, very individual, but speaking from a generic point of view, steps and cardio, is there a place for hitting step targets and implementing cardio in a lengthy muscle building phase? And steps, not in a mini cut, just in the actual surface bit.
Yeah, I would say steps should habitually just stay at 10K, so that when you go to do another diet, it's not a complete shock to your system. Like if you've gone down to 5,000 steps, like I have, the time that you have to crank up your steps to 15,000 is going to be horrible. So your first thing to do would be go up to 10K steps, keep that as a habit, and then later on, you can crank it up for fat loss. So that's where I would aim to keep most people. Cardio, do I think it could be beneficial? Yes, but it depends on who we've got. So it's useful in the sense of you're going to be aerobically fit and able to recover between rest periods when you're training, especially as you get heavier and heavier. So if you've gone from, like what you were saying, 72 kilos for your shoot, and then you're at 90 kilo, your ability to move all that mass and recover between sets is going to get slower and slower.
Caveat, I'm not 90 kilos right now.
He's not right now. But just to give the example, because you gave the range, I think at that point it could be useful just because it will help your recovery for the lifts. But for the most part, if you're new to the game and you're putting on weight slowly, I don't see much value in having a lot of cardio in all the time.
Yeah, I've always thought for cardio, for muscle building, is mainly if you start feeling like you're out of shape,
Mm.
And it's impacting your ability to do leg workouts, especially.
Yeah.
There's a case for it. If you're starting huffing and puffing and going up the stairs, I think there's a case just for a cardiac health, and
Exactly.
it can't be good for you to be in that state of fitness.
Yeah.
General health. I think there is something to be said for just incorporating a little bit here and there, should it need to be.
Also for digestion, for some people, it actually opens up the appetite. So a little bit of cardio is not a bad thing. Obviously, it means you've got to add in a few more calories for that day, but I think it's useful, especially when you're having 4 or 5 big meals and they're all over like 1,000 calories, and you're really having to get it all down. That can be useful.
Yeah, I also think steps is a good habit to keep in, because it keeps you in check with everything else.
Yeah,
putting steps in on a daily basis, you just perform on a better level in all areas.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the biggest thing is the habit, isn't it? Like, it's hard to go and drop down low to like sedentary and then say, right, I'm going to crank it all back up again. You want to be in flow all the time.
Yeah, it can't be good for you to not be moving.
Yeah,
the goal is like being able to move is an important part of everything.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I can't see why anyone would drop their steps down to 3 to 5K.
Me neither.
If help,
it's going to be a goal of mine to bring it up anyway.
Yeah, just calling you out here.
Oh, I know, I can see.
Yeah, from the appetite point of view and digestion, I think there's something to be said for moving more and staying active. You got any other appetite tips?
Well, for muscle building specifically.
Yeah.
I think the thing is when you're of a bigger frame, like if you're 80 kilo plus and you're really having to put in a lot of calories, like 3,500 plus, you will get to a point where eating completely clean food, quote unquote, is hard. There's only so much rice and oats and potato that anyone can put in before they're just full of food. At that point, you'd be looking to add in some sugars, utilize intra-workout nutrition, some Vitago, highly branched dextrin to go in with EAAs if you're using them. Things like dates, dried fruit, that kind of stuff would be amazing because it's very calorie dense, lots of carbohydrates, and very little chewing required.
Yeah, cereal's a good one as well.
I've never got onto that. I know you guys like the Cocoa Pops and stuff post training, but yeah, not for me. It's not for me.
If carbs are like over 450, I think they're really good. Before that, I don't think there's a need for it. But if you're doing
I think it's nice for people, when they've been dieting, to have some of that food in. But when the food focus has gone.
Yeah. Otherwise, you end up trying to fit in 80 to 100 grams of Cocoa Pops, which isn't actually that much. You need to be like 150 for it to be a proper meal. But that's like 130 grams of carbs. So that's why it only warrants it if you're in a really high carb phase.
You're such a Cocoa Pop connoisseur. Like, all the grammages.
I'm not having it though. I only had it in I had it during that long building phase I was doing.
Yeah.
Staple, because it was just carbs. Like, I needed some easy carbs. And
we will get there. We will get there. I think like once I get over 300 carbs, clean carbs, after that point, I just give me some sugars because it's just tiring to get through all that food.
Yeah, and then things like nut butter is really easy as well. Olive oil.
Yeah. Olive oil. Did you ever see the John Meadows thing when, not John Meadows, Dave Tate?
Poured it on the pizza.
The perfect way to get bigger. This guy, basically a huge powerlifter, he had pizza and all he would do is just put like tablespoons of olive oil all over the pizza.
No, I think it was the whole bottle. I think wasn't it the whole bottle?
Ridiculous. Yeah.
I think he got advice from someone even bigger, and the guy was, I tell you how to get big. You order a biggest pizza you can find on the menu, get an olive oil bottle, and you just pour it all over
Yeah. But actually, all jokes aside, if you were somebody who's really struggling with food, olive oil or any mono unsaturated fat is pretty decent at doing that. So if you had to add in 120 calories, a tablespoon of olive oil works. It's just that it doesn't taste as good as some other things.
Yeah. And when do you know when to add these calories in, when to push food higher?
You base what's going on with your weight gain, like we spoke about earlier. Are you getting that 1%? Are you getting stronger in the gym? Or has it all slowed down? And if you're not gaining weight, well, you want that insurance policy behind you. You want to be sure that you're putting in that hard work in the gym, that you are gaining. So then I would look to increase it. Depends on the size of the person and how much you're going to increase it. Like a smaller person, you might just be 150 calories. Bigger person could be 300 calories or more. And you just observe the changes.
So for someone who's not gaining any weight at all, you can be rest assured that they're not gaining muscle, or is that too much?
They will be. I would say that's a bit too far, because you could be gaining muscle even in a diet for some length of time. I think at maintenance you can do, but you're not maximizing it. Like if you had to be sure, you'd want to be gaining slowly.
Yeah, so at least 0.5% at the very least.
Yeah, at the very least. Yeah, that, I think it's just a wise thing to do, because if you're going to put in 2 years of work, you don't want to be like, oh yeah, I maintained weight, and like, okay, but you also didn't put on an extra 5 kilo of muscle because you were worried about gaining.
Yeah, and these are typically the people who call themselves hard gainers. There are these hard gainers who struggle to gain any muscle. Is that a myth, or is there some
I think
some hard gainers beyond the all genetics being equal? Is there such thing as a hard gainer?
I should be a hard gainer.
Yeah.
I think it's hard gainers are poor eaters. So they're the ones who will have one big meal and they'll say, oh man, I went to town, I had this massive meal, it was like over 1,000 calories. And then you look at the rest of their day, and you're like, what else did you eat? You eat like a bird. Like there's nothing else here. You missed breakfast, you had a snack, you're missing meals, you didn't hit your protein. So often the hard gainers are the guys who just aren't very good at eating, and that's where they need some help with like liquid nutrition, easy calories and all that stuff. But then you do get the occasional person who is just an outlier, whereby they just burn energy for fun, and at that point you just have to push calories higher for them. So you might get somebody like in our scenario, when we were both working in the gym, it's nothing to do with us being hard gainers. We were just doing like 15,000 steps a day, training 4 or 5 times a week, and lots of activity. So for maintenance, for me at least, was 3,500 to 4,000 calories.
Yeah.
But now my maintenance is probably about 2,000 calories, just because I don't move much.
Yeah, it's hard being a PT and trying to build muscle. I remember like my fats were up to like 130, carbs 500, and it was delicious meals, but I couldn't finish them half the time because it was just I was so stuffed from eating that. I was having like chicken fries with the skin on, with like coats of rice and tablespoons of olive oil. And by the end of the day, I just felt bloated, and I felt my digestion was just terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough being a PT and trying to gain weight, because it's not like steps. It's the fact that you're picking up plates all day long, and
when you're picking up plates, you are getting heavier, and as you're getting heavier, you're burning more energy as you do it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, it's a catch-22. But yeah, I mean, I've seen like a few guys who are like 60, 70 kilos on 3,500 calories to gain. It's rare, it doesn't happen often, but they are the outliers. They're just hyper all the time. They're constantly walking, lots of energy.
So it essentially comes down to NEAT. And then
NEAT, I would say, more so than anyone being a true hard gainer.
For those people, could you argue that they just need to move less as well?
You could, but then you run into that. I'd say keep 10K steps as the kind of general rule. But if you've got somebody who's just a neat freak, you might need to just calm them down if you can't stuff them with any more food.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's rare though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you came to the end of let's say you've been on this annual cycle you mentioned, what would you determine to be a good investment phase? What would be, you look back and you think, I've done good here?
For me, if we sit, like we said earlier, we've got 8 or 9 months of cranking that weight up. So on the whole, if we increase weight from the start point to the end point, that's good. If we added 20 to 30 kilos on the key lifts on the logbook, that's good. If the form on all the training videos with that progression was perfect, that's good. So those 3 things for me would be like absolutely must have to ensure that we put on muscle.
Cool. So body weight increases on the scale, logbook increases, all while keeping perfect form.
It has to happen. It has to happen. Yeah. Because then, you've ticked all the boxes. I'm not sure what else you can do to ensure any more muscle gain there.
Yeah. What about if someone's created progressive overload, but not really added much body weight? Is that possible?
You can. Yeah, you can. You can do that. I just would say, from what I've seen, you would have definitely put on muscle, I just don't think you would have optimized the amount you could have put on. I think the more advanced you get, the less weight you're going to put on anyway, in terms of like between investment phases, because you're putting on such a small amount of muscle. There's no point gaining 5 kilos if you're just going to diet off again. You just create more dieting for yourself. So the rate of gain for an advanced person would be a lot less. Like for yourself, you'd probably look to gain 0.5 to 1% a month, which you'd barely notice on scale weight, and you'd spend even less time dieting as a result. Whereas when you're talking about somebody who's a beginner, maybe an early intermediate, they can afford to gain more weight because there's going to be more muscle coming with that weight.
Got it. So essentially, unless you're advanced and you've built a foundation, you've got a good physique you're happy with, the whole idea of like lean gains and lean gaining is very much suboptimal. Yeah,
I would say probably, I'd probably say that's suboptimal, just because I feel like it's in those first few years you can make so much progress. Like you've got so much potential to put on muscle. Why would you want to try and be lean gains when that's going to come? Your time will come with that. Just push food, keep body composition relatively in check, but make the most of it now, because you're going to put on the majority of your muscle mass in those first few years.
Yeah, I'm completely in agreement there. I think, there's potentially an argument, even if you're advanced, you still need to kind of push the weight gain as well.
You do, yeah.
Because you ultimately need to get into all-time PB territory if you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
So
are you going to be gaining now, or are you still maintaining that weight?
I'm at 70. I'm at 76 kilos now. So
okay.
3 months after my photo shoot now. So I think that's about 4 kilos. So about 10 pounds in about 12 weeks. So I think it's about the right sort of, because I was extremely shredded, right? So
yeah. 3 kilos of that is just you just coming back to normal.
Yeah, exactly. So like now I obviously know I'm not as lean as I was before, but my strength is now on the up. Like every week, the logbook's going up every week. I'm edging towards those all numbers. Still got a way to go, but you just start feeling like you're gathering momentum. But also I'm like, it's going to be tough to hit this goal I've told you guys about, but you guys seem confident that can happen.
Yeah. Because we told you to set big numbers for your lifts, right? And you were like, but what if I do it at a lighter body weight? And we were like, yeah, but you still got to move more.
Yeah. You think it's possible to hit all-time PBs at 10 kilos less?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look at like, it's a different sport altogether, but look at the guys who are in relative strength sports. They change through weight classes and they dominate as well. So it takes time, because you've got to adjust the new body weight and the skill of doing that at a certain body weight. But yeah, I think so.
You just almost being like a beginner again with those weights, and almost staying away from the temptation of just thinking, I could just get back up to 88 kilos and crush it.
You could, though, man.
I'm like, I really do love the strength there. But I saw a picture the other day when I was 88 kilos. I was 90 kilos in that picture. I was at Tom's photo shoot, and he goes to me, "Hey, you remember our last photo shoot? You look a lot different there." I was like, "Why is that?" He's like, "Oh, have a look at this." And I was like, like a football. I didn't even. I didn't realize at the time, but I remember that session because I just trained before I went to his photo shoot. I remember feeling I was so strong then, man. I was like strong as hell. My face just looked like a football.
Yeah, exactly. At that point, you just got to know what your priority is. Like, to grow, you got to embrace that fluffy period, and it's not going to be pretty. And it just depends on how far you can take it, or how far your body will let you take it.
Yeah.
So, I think definitely most guys should go there at least once.
Oh, 100%. I think you got to go there, and then the rewards on the other side. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, because then when you cut that first time after you blew up to 90, you're like, oh my God, I have put on so much muscle.
Yeah. So between 2000 and 2014, when I competed first time, up till then, the highest I ever got to was 84, and I ended up on 71. It's funny, each time I dieted, I ended up pretty much the same body weight, but I looked significantly better each time. So I was about 70, 71. And then I did the big bulk. I got to like 90 and I held it there for a long time. Then I stripped all the way down to 71.
Yeah.
And I had shredded glutes, I had striated quads, I had feathers, triceps. I'd never had any of this at my previous diet. So suddenly I'm thinking, wow, this is the way to do it. Then I went up again, and then this year again, I came.
Yeah.
I came in about 72, so slightly higher. And again, I had the same striations, the feathers, and I looked fuller in my chest. I didn't have as gaunt in my face, so I think it's worth it.
And you did a lower volume approach this time than even your lower volume.
Yeah. So
I think that's worth time, isn't it? Like in a diet, you can get away with such low volume to keep muscle mass, whereas in a growing phase, like you've got to go to town.
Yeah, you can maintain your muscle mass on like, what do they say, 60% of your volume?
Oh, it's like nothing. Really, it was like nothing. Yeah.
So the point that I made there is that each time you go through a building period and then come back down again, there's significant improvements to be made, providing in each time you've gone there, you've set new weight records, set new body weight records, and you re-look back at your logbook and you're like, yeah, I'm stronger than I was 12 months ago. Yeah. If you look back after 12 months, like you said, you just wasted your time.
Yeah, exactly. You want everything in your favor.
Yeah. Just to finish up on a few like frequently asked questions we get.
Here we go.
Just like as succinct as you can give it, because I know each one is like a podcast in itself, right?
Yeah.
How often should you change your program?
I would personally say at least run the program for 12 weeks. And the reason I say that is because the very beginning, like first 4 to 6 weeks, all going to be mural. You're going to see like really quick changes in your strength. That's going to go up. And then from 6 weeks on, it will slow down. And that's you actually putting muscle on, not just learning a movement. The issue is most people get to 12 weeks like, I want a new program. I'm so bored of my program. But you can run it for a long time. I know we've had clients before who kept the same program for 6 months and longer. But the longer you can go with it and the more progress you can milk out of it, the better. So I'd say at least 12 weeks. For some people, boredom is going to be a factor. 8 weeks is going to be like the bare minimum. But I just feel that what you get with that is you're just relearning movements versus getting strong.
Would you change the whole thing, or are you just changing accessory lifts and the sport?
Yeah.
Or do you keep the indicators throughout the 12-month cycle?
I try and keep them in as long as possible. You might get phases where you just got to take out like a floor press for a while to do something else because, you just got wear and tear on the joints. But generally speaking, try and keep the bread and butter movements in the whole year.
Yeah. And off the back of that, is getting a pump important?
Yes, because how are you going to walk out of the gym afterwards without a pump? No, jokes aside, getting a pump is important. If you can create metabolic stress to a muscle very quickly, there's some research that suggests that will be useful. So after like mechanical tension, metabolic stress is useful. And yeah, it could be a factor in your muscle growth. So definitely get a sweet pump at the end of your workout.
You say a bigger benefit is potentially that you're hitting the right muscle?
Not really. I would say no, because I think if you're performing the compound lift well anyway, you're gonna feel it working. I think you get loads of metabolic stress, you get that lactic acid build up, whatever it is, and it hurts. You're like, yeah, I went to town on that, but I think you should be feeling that anyway. So if you're doing a chest press and you're coming out of it and you're not feeling the chest, look at your form and see why that might be the case.
Yeah, I think it's also a good status of your recovery, your hydration,
big time,
your body composition. Because if you're not getting a pump, there's something probably wrong.
Yeah, you missed out on salt. You've got too fat. You've got too much water. It could be a number of things.
Yeah, and you touched on this earlier, but do you need to eat clean?
That's a whole episode in its own. But to summarize it, do you need to eat clean? No. But do I think it would be wise to have at least 80% of your nutrition from clean, nutrient-dense food? Yes, because then you run into the trap of having whatever you want, going from restaurant to restaurant, and making dieting and the whole process around food just really unhealthy.
Yeah. If someone's listening to this and they've just coming up to an end of a dieting phase and they're looking at 2020 as the year of the investment, what are the strategies you're giving them to prime themselves to make it the most productive phase yet?
Map out the 12 months, pick your 5 key lifts, set numbers for the key lifts that you want to get to. So if your bench press is 80 kilo, set 100 kilo for the same number of reps. Keep those in mind every single time you're training. Allow your body weight to come up and allow a little bit more freedom with food so you can actually enjoy it, because this is a much longer phase than dieting will ever be. And apart from that, enjoy your training. Those would be the keys for me.
And to finish up on, are we ever going to see Ben go through a perma bulk again?
The temptation is there, man. No, probably not. Probably not. As much fun as a perma bulk is, I felt like absolute shit. So yeah, I wouldn't advise that to too many people. Do it the methodical way, plan it all out, have an investment phase, and then your results will be much better off the back of it.
You started off talking on this podcast about your plans for the next kind of 2 to 3 months. Have you got a 12-month plan for 2020? Yeah,
the temptation is to diet now that I've heard that Kevin Duffy is going to get shredded for all these holidays. But realistically, I think I'm going to close out this year doing 3 times a week training, have a look at what's going on with regards to like me getting into the gym, start by just fixing a few of my habits, i.e. the walking and maintaining strength. And then next year, I'll probably look to maintain for the first 3 months and then decide if I am actually going to cut or if I'm going to go into more muscle building. Because the thing is, to muscle build, I'd need to train more frequently, I reckon, for where I'm at with my training. But dieting could be an option, even at 3 times a week training. So.
And when you say dieting, are we talking mini cut dieting, or are we talking?
No. We're talking like all out.
Oh, we're going to get the walnuts out then.
The walnuts, yeah, get them out for spring. Yeah, let the squirrels gather the walnuts. No, yeah. If I the next one I do, it will be going all in.
Brilliant. So if you enjoyed today's episode with Ben about investment phase, and there's specific topics you want us to cover in investment, let us know and we can do specific deep dives into each one. I think there'd be a pretty cool series to do. This one's a big overview of the whole investment phase, what makes a productive investment phase, and what you need to be considering going forwards if you want to make the most of it. Any parting words from you, Ben, on anyone who's getting ready to invest?
Delayed gratification. Keep that in front of your mind. Remember that fat loss happens instantly, so it's very rewarding very quickly. The people who can delay their gratification will see it in their next transformation. So keep that in mind and train hard.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming on, Ben. Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.